man who lived in the Ur of the Chaldees. That was China or India, the Orient. It's not Babylon. Babylon's to the north. Ur was to the south. Where the two rivers come together down here. Almost down to the sea. Abraham was a Chinaman. He was not a Jew. Jew was not existent. There was no such thing as a Jew. He was a Chinaman. Or at least Oriental. And God said, come over here. So his wife was with him. She was a Chinaman. And then they sent back to get a wife for Isaac. Another Chinaman. At least Oriental. Maybe not exactly what we call China. And Rebecca came from there. And Rachel. You remember that Jacob went back to get a wife. So they're all of them Oriental. And they've had 12. Well, they got over into Egypt following Joseph. They went over. Joseph married the daughter of the priest of On. She was an Egyptian. Black. Joseph had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Were, I don't know what the right word to call this, a mixed half-breed, mulatto. I'm going to have to ask my black friend what's the right word to use there. They were mixed. There's no scripture that says that. You can get the map and check it out. That's where what happened. We do know that Joseph married the daughter of the priest of On. Necessarily a black man. Necessarily black children. Or half black. The father of faith. I don't know just what to do with that, so we'll put that over on the side and work a little while. And I would like some help here. I want somebody to read me, not at this time, but I want somebody to find Genesis 41:50. And then I want somebody else to find Exodus 2:21. And then I want a third person to get me Numbers 12:1. When I ask you for it, then you read it out. Has somebody got on to all of these?
Let's assign it. Who's going to take it?
Okay, who's taking the first one? Genesis 41:50.
Got it. All right, let's second.
Okay, who's going for Exodus 2:21?
Who's got it? There they are.
All right, I want Numbers 12:1.
Who's got that?
Then put your finger in and close it up until we get there.
He's got numbers wrong, got it.
All right, then I want Numbers 10:29.
Numbers 10:29. We'll get it there, right?
Then I want Numbers 32:12.
Does anybody have a Bible?
Numbers 32:12.
All right, there, he'll get it.
Well, this gentleman here, then you can get
You got it.
2 Samuel 11:3.
This is a new section. I don't know that.
That's all right, you can find 2 Samuel 11:3. Then I want 2 Samuel 18:21. All right, then I want Jeremiah 38:7. Are we ready? Phillips 8:27. Acts 8:27. I'm sorry.
Actually, it's not quite new because you got 39 in the old and 27 in the new. It comes out to 66, so that's how you get those 66.
Acts 8:27. Then I want Mark 15:21. Then I want Romans 16:13. And we'll go back and pick up Mark 3:18. Then I want Revelations 5:9. Have we got them all going? Revelation 5:9. Is that good enough, Ruth? Okay. Now I want to hear Genesis 41:50. Now, who's got Genesis 41:50?
And unto Joseph were born two sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of, oh my gosh, which Asenath, the daughter of Ebaugh, priest of On, there I think, yeah. Okay, so unto Joseph were born two sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, there I think.
She was black. So the two sons were mixed. Moses wipes him, this is Exodus 2:21.
And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter.
The Midianites were a black nation living in that Sinai desert where Moses ran from Egypt. Moses' wife was black.
Black nation up from Africa, they're that next.
Numbers 12:1. Who's got Numbers 12:1?
And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman who...
Wait a minute, he's got two wives?
Yep.
Wow. Because the first wife was the daughter of the Midianite. But now you're saying she was an Ethiopian?
Yep.
I guess he's got two wives.
Nope.
No?
Same one.
This is the first time I find really the beginning of a real raw, dirty trick the translators did for us. They called her an Ethiopian. She was not from the country of Ethiopia. She was black. And they use the word Ethiopian, and they mean black. And they don't say black, they say Ethiopian. When I was a kid, my daddy and I played with my daddy, we had a collection of stamps. And we had foreign stamps. I really learned geography from my father, playing with foreign stamps. And every evening we'd get stamps, and he'd send off and got stamps. And we'd put them in the book, and he'd show me on the map where they were, and talk about the various countries. I really learned geography. I knew where Ethiopia was. But it doesn't really mean Ethiopia. It means black. Anybody that's black, they call them an Ethiopian. What a rotten, dirty trick the translators have done for us. And not one modern translation has straightened it out. Not one of all the modern, marvelous translations we've got. They carry it through.
Carry the error.
I think that's wrong.
Yes. No, I give them
So, Miriam complained that Moses had an Ethiopian wife. That was a thing she should not have had and not have done. And God smote her with leprosy. And Aaron came to Moses and said, "Oh, pray for our sister. She's got leprosy." And God said to Moses, "Look, if her father had spit on her, you would put her out of the camp for 7 days. So put her out of the camp at least for 7 days. And after that, you can pray for her." Now that's something to stick in your healing book. God said to put her out of the camp, and then you can pray for her. If her father had only spit on her, we would put her out of the camp. And this is a lot worse than that. And God gave her leprosy. Wow, that's really horrible.
Kind of interesting that it turned to white.
Yeah, I love that. That's a fun, isn't it? He's got two names. I suppose one is Hebrew and one is one of those other languages, Midianite. Let's go through Numbers 10:29.
And Moses said unto Ebaugh, the son of Ebaugh, Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, we are journeying unto the place of which the Lord said, I will give it you. Come thou with us, and we will do thee good. And for the Lord hath spoken good concerning Israel.
Midianite, come and be our eyes and lead us through the desert. Now, is this a blackboard? Does this thing work?
Yeah, we can write on it.
Is there a thing to write with?
Yeah, it's best. It's a whiteboard, yeah. That's a whiteboard system.
Very important.
He's running the camera. Down low on.
Down.
I'll look here. We'll find something for you, Betty.
I guess I don't need it.
Well, we got it now.
We put that up to be written on the system. Here we go.
Okay. You don't need it. So here's the children of Israel. Marching along here, 600,000 men, plus women and children, plus all their cattle and their camels and their goats, on all their stuff.
That's what I said, stuff.
So here comes
Ebaugh.
Hobab. No, yeah, Hobab, the brother. So he's riding point up here, and then he's got a group out here riding point. This is the cowboys and Indians, you know? And out here's another little group. These are all the Midianites. These are all the Midianites. There's what, a dozen or so in each little group? Now, the problem was that these guys were slaves. They came up out of Egypt, and they didn't know anything for 400 years. They didn't know anything. They don't have any exercise on their brain.
Israelites, not the Midianites.
They don't have any choice. They've never chosen anything. They've been slaves for 400 years. They don't know anything, but they've made bricks. And they march in the brick pits. They've got great big legs and no head. And they march in the bricks. And when it got down to the end, he said, I'll take your straw away from you. Now, they didn't make bricks without straw. What they did was they said, you have to go get your own straw and keep up your quota. Make up your bricks. So then he said, you know why he said to do that? He said, so they will cry out for deliverance. I made them do that. He made Pharaoh take away the straw so they would cry out for deliverance. And you think your straw is taken away? Start crying for deliverance. Don't say, oh, well, I'll just take it. Don't just take it. Start crying out for deliverance. Yeah. So they got them out in the wilderness. They can march good. They're good marchers, but they haven't got any brain. And they sure don't know how to deal with the warring nations that are thriving there inside the desert country. And they don't know how to deal. They don't know how to use weapons. They've never had weapons. They don't, whatever weapons they had, they couldn't use. They didn't have good eyesight. They didn't have brains. They didn't have any choice. And they needed these people to lead them through the wilderness. And to say, well, we'll go out here around this rock. This way there will be a water hole. If we go this way, we'll go the wrong direction too far. And so the point man's up here riding out far ahead saying we should go this way, out around this rock. And this guy over here says, here comes a tribe of warriors, and they're going to kill us all. And these guys can't defend themselves. So here they send out their signals, and the Midianites come and defend them. We need those guys. They're part of us. And they have an ability to Numbers 32:12.
Except Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite and Joshua the son of Nun, for they have followed the Lord solely.
Caleb, his father was a Kenizzite, the black nation. I would guess Caleb was black. And he came into the promised land, and Caleb's the one that took the mountain. And he was a black man. How about that? Oh, Mark, the socks over you?
Yeah. I'm the first to admit it, too.
You know, I haven't been against black people, I just haven't been for them. I haven't been anything. But all of a sudden, there's a whole world out there that I never knew existed. I didn't know it existed. Okay,
They didn't teach us.
no, they didn't teach us. They told us they were Ethiopians. I wonder what was in their brain. Okay, here we have 2 Samuel 11:3. Who's got 2 Samuel 11:3?
I'll read it.
Okay,
And David sent and inquired after the woman, and one said, It is not this Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite.
okay, Bathsheba. The word is Bathsheba. She's the daughter of Sheba. She was a black nation.
She was black.
And she was Bathsheba, that's the daughter of a black nation. And her husband was Uriah the Hittite. That's a black nation. So that's not real surprising. Maybe Bathsheba married to Uriah. They were both black people. And of course they had Solomon. After Uriah was dead, David took Solomon. David took Bathsheba and produced Solomon. Solomon was half black.
What's it? Moab.
How about that?
You mean,
I'm not sure I like where this is leading.
you mean when he wrote about the beauty of the black woman in the Song of Solomon? There might be something left on.
It sounds like.
Shut up. I just can't help it.
Doesn't matter whether you like it or not. It's in the scripture, you're going there. What a rotten thing it was that in Germany that the church didn't stand up for what was wrong.
Well, I'm telling you. That's
Now, after a while, I understand that the church was trapped and couldn't stand up. They should have stood up
in the beginning.
way 20, 30 years before it got that far.
Yeah.
And I wish the church would stand up now, before it gets that far. The church needs to make a proclamation. This is where we stand on this issue. We don't want women in the pulpit to make that a proclamation? Great. That's a God to help everything.
Cut that out of the tape.
Okay, in the Song of Solomon, I don't have that scripture out here. I need to find that reference. He says, thou art black, but beautiful. He says, black as the tents of Kedar, but beautiful. The tents of Kedar, we saw the tents of Kedar. They're black, they're come from some black animal.
Black is that right there.
Oh, they are black. The tents are black. And we saw the whole field of those tents out there, and those people living in those tents, and those tents are all made of black fur. Black skin from some black animal. The tents of Kedar are black.
Black.
Black. Well, I guess. Okay, then I want 2 Samuel 18:21.
Then said Joab to Cush,
let me talk a minute. Absalom died, and Joab sent a message to David to say, your son Absalom is dead. Now read it.
Then said Joab to Cush, go tell the king what thou hast seen. And Cush bowed himself unto Joab and ran.
And then after that, Cushy. That's like saying Blackie, isn't it? Hey, Blackie, go run. And then after that, the other man said, oh, let me run. And Joab says, you haven't got anything to say. He says, that's all right, let me run. He said, oh, all right, you jerk, go ahead and run. So he ran, and he outran Cushy. He got there first. And David said, tell me what happened. He says, I don't know. He said, stand over here. And Cushy came in, and David said, tell me about my son, Absalom. And he said, all of the king's enemies should be in Absalom. Cushy, the black man. Blackie! They called him Blackie!
Better honky.
Okay, I want Jeremiah 38:7.
Now when Ebed-melech the Ethiopian, one of the eunuchs which was in the king's house, heard that they had put Jeremiah in the dungeon, the king then sitting in the gate of Benjamin. Keep going?
Yeah.
Okay. Ebed-melech went forth out of the king's house and spake to the king, saying, my lord the king, these men have done evil in all that they have done to Jeremiah, the prophet, whom they have cast into the dungeon, and he is like to die for hunger in the place where he is, for there is no more bread in the city.
The whole land was in a famine condition as they were being taken off to battle and to be slaves. There wasn't any food around. And they put Jeremiah in a pit because they didn't like his prophecies. He said it's going to happen. And they put him in the pit. And Ebed-melech, a black man, they called him an Ethiopian. Who knows what he was? He was a black man. And he threw down soft rags and he said, put them in your armholes so that when we throw the rope down, you won't get hurt. And he brought Jeremiah up out of the pit. That was a black man that saved Jeremiah. All right, I want Acts 8:27.
Then he rose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of all her trades, and had come to Jerusalem for worship.
This is an Ethiopian. This man is truly from Ethiopia. And was the treasurer in Queen Candace's court. And he was black. And Philip ministered to him, and he, no doubt, took the gospel back to Ethiopia. All right, then Mark 15:21.
And they compelled one Simon, a Cyrenian, to pass by, coming out of the country, the father of Alexander and Rufus, to bear the cross.
The black man, Cyrenian. Cyrenians were black. And his sons were Rufus and Alexander. They were probably black.
At least half.
And they were the co-pastors of the church at Antioch. Rufus and Alexander were the co-pastors of the church at Antioch.
When the labor were all Christians. Excuse me.
Okay, Mark 3:18.
And Andrew and Philip and Bartholomew and Matthew and Thomas and James the son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus and Simon the Canaanite.
Simon the Canaanite. Canaanites are black. One of the 12 was black. All right, I want Revelations 5:9.
And Simon who saw, saying, thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seal thereof, for thou hast
in church all my life.
And that's literal, I mean, all our life.
That's it.
You have the mic, you have to keep the mic on.
I pretended not to hear when the
I think I sent this to you, an email, and I hope you sent it around. It's been a little while ago now. Okay. Today I walked into a McDonald's on the far south side of Chicago. The men in there were having a heated discussion about the injustices of the American system. They were venting and protesting about how the white man's system was totally against black progress. This particular day, the brothers were vehemently enumerating the many injustices that each had encountered during their lifetimes. One man was going on about the lack of jobs, the lack of recreational parks, the injustices of the school system, and the inequality of the whites and blacks in general. Look at our neighborhood, he said. There are no parks for our kids to play in like the white neighborhoods. There's no jobs for our black men. Why should they work at McDonald's or Burger King for minimum wage when they can sell dope or the corner store and make more in one day than they can make in a month at the fast food place? He got louder and louder, feeling justified in his rage. It was like they were having church and he was the preacher and all others were saying amen. Earlier in my life, I might have joined in with them, but there is something about the truth. When you know it, it will make you free, and God has made me free. I wondered whether I should just sit and listen to their heated argument about the system or if I should enter the discussion. Then I heard a man say, "We were over in Africa minding our own business." I'm sorry. When all of a sudden the white man decided to enslave us out of his greed and hatred for the blacks, they brought us over here in the ships. That was all I could take. So I stood up and said, now that's not me, of course. I'm reading somebody else's story. This didn't happen to me.
Who is this person?
I don't know. The letter was sent to my friend Tony Sweet in Harrisburg. I don't know the origination of this. We were in Egypt, I continued. I stood up and I said, brothers, we blame the white man for everything, but our real problem is with God, not with the white man. That got their attention. All eyes were on me as they waited to hear how I would explain this outrageous statement. We were in Egypt, I continued, in power for 3,000 years. We were indeed the descendants of the Egyptians. We were scientists and inventors, educators and writers. Oh, they all liked that. Whatever you talk about, blacks, being descendants of the great civilization of the ancient Egypt, you get our attention. Because we have been put down so much so long, whenever we hear anything that gives us any credibility or validation, we perk up. Then I added, but that also means we were the first slave masters. We enslaved Israel for 400 years. We were on top, but now we're not, because we picked a fight with God. Now they were surprised. Then I noticed a Bible on the counter, so I picked it up, even with the Islamic influence in the black community. Most blacks still fear and respect the Bible. I started reading some of the verses in Isaiah 19 that spoke about God's judgment of Egypt because of its idolatry, witchcraft, and sorcery. I talked about the idols we worshipped in Africa. Then I showed them the first mention of slavery, and the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord of hosts. That reference there is verse 4. Where was it? In Isaiah, I guess.
Isaiah 19.
Well, Isaiah 19. And then verse 4. They cried in disbelief, you mean to say that God permitted that to happen? So I responded, yes, because he did it before with Israel and any other nation who turned unto him. But the real bomb dropped when I got to the ship. I flipped to Ezekiel 30 and I read, "In that day shall messengers go forth from me in ships, to make the careless Ethiopians afraid. And the great pain shall come upon them as in the day of Egypt, for lo, it cometh." Verse 9. "The Lord sent the ships to pick us up," I said quietly, waiting for everything to sink in. "We raised up the white man to bring the ship. He raised up the white man to bring the ships to pick us up and enslave us." Now there was absolute silence. One of the men there was in the ministry and wanted to see where I read. When I showed him, he confirmed it to everyone. "It's in there," he said. So I decided to continue in Ezekiel. Though they were shocked, a missing piece of the puzzle had to be added. "I now want to tell you why the white man can't stand us," I announced. When I read, "I will also vex the hearts of many people, and I will bring thy destruction among the nations, unto the countries which thou hast not known." Ezekiel 32:9. "God vexed the white man's heart against us black race." I said somberly, "His heart is irritated with us." Well, that was it, the knockout punch. You could hear the parking meters ticking outdoors. Our orders were now cold and ignored. Even the manager, staff, and other customers had joined in the discussion. I left and went home, leaving a stunned and murmuring group behind. But I figured that now I have to put the rest of the story down, even though I frankly fear that it may make me a pariah to many, while others may suspect my grip on logic, reason, and religion. Indeed, these are scary thoughts for a black man. A black television minister once said he was glad the ships came, and so am I. When I look at the tribal warfare that's going on in Africa, I'm glad the ships came. When I look at the thought that it's going on in Africa, I'm glad the ships came. When I look at the political wars in Africa, I'm glad the ships came. When I look at the dissension that's going on in Africa, I'm glad the ships came. When I look at the multiplicity of problems there, I'm glad the ships came. They came because God loved us too much to leave us, lost in idolatry. God used drastic means to bring us out of a life of idol worship, darkness, and ignorance, but he did not bring us out into the knowledge of the true God. Plus, the black slaves in America eventually gained their freedom. This historic struggle for liberation set a precedent for the whole world. God sent deliverers such as Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King to release the people, both white and black, from the horrid reality of the curses on them. Freedom and deliverance for blacks everywhere began in the United States. The struggle for liberation spread to other parts of the world, such as South Africa, like ripples on the pond. Though the United States wasn't the original instigator of slavery, it became a model for deliverance from it. Black people don't want to admit this, but somebody needs to say it. Many black people still believe it's a racist society, as it is in many ways, but America is also where God's deliverance of our people began. It is a paradox. Yes, I'm sorry we had to be enslaved, but I'm certainly glad the ships came. A loving God hates sin. It's hard to believe that a loving God would allow such evil to happen to the black people. But it shows us how serious God can get when it comes to the sin of idol worship. We know these things happened, and they're still happening because men need to turn to the truth. If God is truly with you, who can be against you? Romans 8:31. But if he's against you, the prophecy will continue. Because of the presence of sin on the earth, life isn't fair, and it won't be until sin is removed. So don't expect things to be fair. The fact that God punished us severely for our idolatry by raising up so terrible a slave master lets us know how serious God is about sin. The wages of sin is death. Not just sickness, but death. Not just poverty, but death. Not just suffering, but death. There's nothing worse than death. So in order to rescue us from it, God sometimes uses the executioner to carry out punishment. This is the other side of God, the side that punishes sin to rescue the sinner from death. He does all this to curb our desire to go after another God. God is a jealous God. He doesn't want us to have any other gods but him. Think about it. God allowed his only begotten Son to experience death through the most gruesome way, to die on the cross. Jesus suffered for ours, to take the sin of mankind, and none of us can imagine what that was like. So if God was willing to give his only son because of sin, you know he is willing to destroy anybody else who plays with it. especially the sin of idolatry. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son he receiveth. God is a God of justice and a God of love. We provoked him to the drastic measure of grinding idolatry out of us. So now we can sing, Father, I stretch my hands to thee, no other help I know. Now we don't have to be involved in idol worship anymore. Now we don't have to serve any other God, but the true and living God through his Son, Jesus Christ. I don't apologize for God. I believe he told me not to. He is God. Who does what he wants to do, to fulfill his will. And I believe he wants everyone to know that he sent all things, all the ships. God told me, tell the people that I did it. I did it because I love them, because those whom he loved, he chastised.
Amen.
There's a book I have at home that I don't have the references with it. It talks about Ham going into Noah and seeing him naked and being cursed. And the guy says that when he saw his father naked, he didn't truly see his father naked. There's many scriptures in the old section that say when you see the man's nakedness, it's maybe in the sex act, or maybe it's his wife that's naked. And this guy staged a trial for Ham and said for Ham to tell his own story. And what the scriptures he brought out of it said that it wasn't Ham that was cursed, it was Canaan that was cursed. We wondered about that. That Ham saw Canaan forcing his grandmother, and Ham went in and got Canaan and carried him out, his son, and told his brothers to go cover his mother. His mother was laying in there naked. And they walked backwards and covered. They didn't cover Noah. Noah wasn't even around. He covered his mother after Ham carried Canaan out to deal with it, and God cursed Canaan, not Ham. Did I forget something?
No. So, it's not. Thank you, Betty, for this good reading.